business owners that puts them in front of a global audience. And in behind those shows is a whole range of things, from digital magazines to social media to blogging to email to lead generation, just a whole range of things.
Fairly early on in the piece, I was working away in my home office one day and I received this email from someone who was wanting snow globes to commemorate Steve Martin's AFI award. I called the number and was chatting to this very lovely man. I assumed that it was somebody working at the AFIs and said to him, the timeline that you need them in is quite tight, but I really want to do this because I'm a huge fan of Steve Martin. He's very important to me. And this voice said on the other end of the line, oh, well, I should tell you, this is Steve. And that was really a huge highlight of my career. I do get quite a lot of high-profile requests for projects, and it's always a buzz. I've been really fortunate to do some amazing projects for TV series and movies. We've made custom snow globes for the TV series Westworld, awesome sci-fi show, TV series Friends, for The Hateful Eight, that was Quentin Tarantino's 8th movie. When a creative visionary looks at something I've produced and says, wow, that's amazing, I just love it, that's significant because their standards are so high. And for me to have fulfilled that is really fulfilling for me. So having come from the corporate world myself, I understand what it's like, trying really hard to find something that stands out and represents your brand in the way that you would want it to be represented. I feel like I've done a pretty good job of providing some very magical pieces for companies like Calvin Klein and Mercedes-Benz and Estee Lauder with these beautiful designs that they have envisioned, but I've managed to make a reality for them. I've done quite a few projects for different musicians and bands. One of my regular clients each year is Third Man Records, owned by Jack White from the White Stripes. Very loyal and great to work with. Also done custom snow globes and glass ornaments for Daft Punk. So that's certainly an area that I really enjoy working in, especially being a musician myself in the past. Those high-profile clients are no different to any of my other clients. They're all just people who are looking to create something magical and a really meaningful gift to give to people who they care about. So my job remains the same, regardless of who I'm dealing with, but it is fun dealing with some high-profile clients now and then.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Everyday Business Show. I'm your host, Toni, and today we have a phenomenal guest to chat to. But before we get on with the show, if you're listening live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and the Everyday Women's Network, please remember that with each interview, we attach show notes so that you're able to connect with the wonderful guest that we talk to and connect with their business. I'd like to also remind you that Everyday Women's Network is now free for anyone to jump on and jump in and have a look. I encourage you to do so. We would love to welcome you to our TV network. Again, we feature, talk to, and raise the perspectives of women across the planet, particularly women who are working in a space that they love. Our guest today is no different. I want to respectfully acknowledge the people of the Yugambeh language region on the Gold Coast, Queensland, Australia, and pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging, and all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders watching or listening today. Thank you for your time. Today's show is titled How a Hollywood Star Brought My Business to Life. And I love the uniqueness of this business. And I've been looking forward to talking to our guest, Leah, for a long time. So without further ado, Leah Andrews is the owner of Queen of Snow Globes, a unique boutique company specializing in custom snow globes. And she's from Melbourne, Australia. Leah's become known for her unique business, her wonderful, amazing customer service, and her attention to detail. She has created snow globes for an impressive array of high-profile clients, including Steve Martin, Quentin Tarantino, and Fortune 500 companies, as well as lots and lots of boutique gift stores across the world. In addition to running her own business, Leah is actively supporting refugee women in starting their own business and mentoring them through the Brotherhood of St Lawrence in a program called Stepping Stones. Now, Leah, when I was preparing for our interview, we always ask our guests for a motivational quote. And it is with absolute delight that Leah and I share in common this amazing quote. And you know it all and you've heard it all, but I love reminding women in particular. And it's The Man in the Arena by Theodore Roosevelt. And I just adjust it a fraction. It's not the critic who counts or the woman who points out how the strong woman stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the woman who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, and who strives valiantly but errs and comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasm, great devotions, and who spends herself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if she fails while daring greatly, so that her place shall be never won with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Welcome to the show, Leah.
It is such a delight to be here, Toni. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm glad you read that quote, because I usually choke up when I'm asked to read it. May I say, I would also like to acknowledge the people of the Kulin Nation, who are the traditional owners of the land on which I live and work, and it is the land that I love. And I gratefully acknowledge their place here. Toni, before you go any further, I can't hear you.
Okay, let me try.
You're back.
Okay. That quote, I like to replace man with woman, because I think it's women who need to be encouraged to dare greatly. Yes. Because for many women, it's a scary space, isn't it?
Right, absolutely, yes. It's challenging, but I'm proud to be one of those people, at least. I feel like I am.
Look, I would agree, because the uniqueness of what you do, I don't know, I smile when I think of it. I was smiling when I was looking on your website. I was smiling when I was looking at all the difference. And I have to tell the audience, Leah's website is beautiful. If you want to spend a substantial amount of time being inspired by almost a childlike joy, please jump onto Leah's website, Queen of Snow Globes, because it's really beautiful. It's a beautiful website and I loved it. Leah, what is it about snow globes that make people so happy? And do you remember when you saw your first snow globe and how that all transpired to be a business?
Yeah, so it's interesting that you say that the website inspires you with a bit of a childlike kind of response, because I often say that. I say that snow globes they're nostalgic. Pardon me, I have a frog in my throat. They're very nostalgic, and they do invoke this sort of sense of childlike wonder. I think when people pick them up and they see the snow flying around and they see that little world, there's something in that act that you almost imagine yourself in there. And I've said before that I think in many ways the idea of being in there with this dome above you and the snow flying around, there's a feeling of safety or something in that, that you're transported for a little brief period of time away from the troubles of the world. And we know there are a lot of them at the moment, so there's just something in that. There's something that tweaks on that nostalgia. And certainly they're much more popular and iconic in the States than they are here in Australia, maybe just because we have less snow, right?
True.
But I was never a collector or anything like that. And I think in Australia, there's much more of an instance of those sort of little plastic snow domes. So you might go to the Big Banana or, any of our big tourist attractions, and there's those little plastic snow domes with the blue background, and, you can refill them when the water goes low, and they've always got an air bubble at the top.
They do.
They do, right? And so that tends to be the experience in Australia. So I was never a collector. In America, it's much more of a commonplace thing that people will have snow globes that they bring out at Christmas. But I've had people tell me that they decorate their whole house with snow globes. And, of course, you go to Disney World or Universal Studios and there's a huge array of beautiful, big, really intricate snow globes that you would see there. So there is that difference. I think I remembered that the first glass snow globe that I ever bought was relatively late in life. I was very fortunate to be taken to Paris on a work trip when I was formerly working for other people. And it was just one of those gorgeous little Eiffel Tower snow globes that they have on every street corner, and I was quite captivated by it, and I bought it. And I remember my boss having a bit of a chuckle and saying, "Oh, are you going to start collecting snow globes?" No, I just love this one, for whatever reason, I just love that one. And I brought it home, and I didn't really think about it too much more. But the real hit came when I was sitting one night watching one of my favorite shows of all time, which is definitely dated itself these days, but Sex and the City.
Oh, yeah.
We all loved Sex and the City, right? We all pictured ourselves as one of those girls. We put ourselves in those little boxes. Are you a Carrie or a Miranda or, God forbid, a Samantha? I have Samantha friends. And I saw this beautiful snow globe that Carrie had, and she picked it up, and it was really big. And it had the Twin Towers in it, and she shook it up and the camera sort of focused in on it, and it was so beautiful. And in that moment of looking at it, I thought, oh, that's so gorgeous. I'd really love to own one of those. And so I went online and I tried to find this particular New York snow globe. And I actually found out that it was quite rare and it was very hard to get. I do actually own one now, despite not being a collector. I do own one, and this is it here.
Oh, so, wow.
It's a beautiful globe with the most intricate base, and with the Statue of Liberty there, and then it's got the gorgeous towers in there and all of the New York buildings. So I paid quite a sum for this because in truth, it actually represents how my whole business started, because when I went online to try and find this and discovered that it was quite rare, I also saw snow globe kits for sale. And I was looking for something creative to do at the time. And, you know, I was just sort of working and getting up each day, going to work, eating, sleeping, watching TV, you know,
Yeah.
not much creative in my life. And aside from the kids, the only other sort of dichotomy that I saw online was, first and foremost, the sort of, you know, the traditional kitschy travel snow globes that
Yes.
always
All the
do
ones.
have that air bubble in the top. You know, they're always a bit wonky or crooked, or they're cloudy, you know. So I saw that sort of kitschy, you know, low cost bargain basement type of product.
Uh-huh.
But then what I also saw was an artist couple who produced the most amazing, almost grotesque sort of settings, wintry settings. So
Yes.
Walter Martin and Paloma Munoz, and they create these snow globes predominantly to take photographs of, like macro type photographs, and then sell them as prints because they make gorgeous prints. But they're things like these winter bear trees with a little well and a person holding a baby over the well, or a giant spider coming out to attack a tiny little person, you know. So I'm a bit of a horror fan myself. So when I saw these pictures, I was like,
wow,
they are amazing, you know, and so completely different to this sort of kitschy travel type thing. And then I found out that they do exhibitions, and if they sell one of these globes, they sell for about $10,000 each. So there was really that, yeah. So well, they're works of art, you know.
Absolutely.
So given that I was looking for this creative outlet, I decided to buy a couple of the kits. I got them shipped over, and I just kind of played around. And the very first one that I made, I just got a couple of little horse figurines. I'm a horse lover. I own a horse. And I put them with a little wire tree sitting there with a white base and the white snow. And when I assembled it, I looked at it and I was like, that is just gorgeous. I just love it, you know. And so it kind of grew from there. My niece now has that original snow globe. I have the original New York snow globe, but what's happened from there, I could never have imagined.
Yes. So tell us about that, Leah. Tell us about the trajectory from that first snow globe to your global business.
Yeah, for sure. So as I say, I was looking for something creative to do, but at the same time, I've always wanted to own my own business. My dad was, you know, I wouldn't say a self-made businessman, but he always worked for himself. I think he instilled that idea in me that I wanted to be my own boss. And so I was working in the corporate world. I actually worked in music products, and I worked for several large companies in Australia, selling musical instruments, marketing, product management, all that kind of thing. But as I say, I was looking for something creative. And at the same time, I was studying and basically spending all of my driving time listening to, you know, online business podcasts and passive income podcasts, how to build a website, how to, you know, research SEO and niche marketing and stuff like that. And I love that gear, you know, I really get into that stuff. So these two sort of pursuits were taking up a lot of my time. And so I was making these snow globes. I was also researching, you know, keywords and niches and stuff like that. And I built a couple of basic websites. And then one day I thought, maybe just for kicks, you know, I'll do some research on what the search volume is like for custom snow globes. So I did that. And what I found was that there was actually quite a gap in the market. There were businesses that were fulfilling that search request. There wasn't a huge search traffic volume, but I knew that if I built a website and optimized it well for that term, that I could probably get to page 1 of Google for the term custom snow globes. And I actually built the website really
based on
with
that
in
knowledge.
Mind. Yeah. Well, I built the website. Well, I have to give a big shout out to Pat Flynn from Smart Passive Income, because he's, you know, a leader in the passive income learning space, and everything I just learned from him for free, honestly, from his podcast and his videos. He's amazing. But I almost did it as a bit of a test to see if I could get to page 1 of Google. I did not think that this would take me to the ultimate business that I'd always been looking for. So built the website, optimized it according to, his rules. And within 6 months, it was on page 1 of Google. And I was
wildly, for those listening who might not particularly have a business understanding, it does take a while for these things to happen. They don't just happen overnight.
No, absolutely. And I would say too that it's a different space now as well. So this was, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Actually 13 or 14 years, taking into account the time I spent building the business.
Yeah.
And back then, I think like I was really on top of all of the SEO type, tricks, not even tricks, just the genuine
just
things
the knowledge
that you
and
need to do, right?
Yeah.
And but now I think it is harder. The space is more filled. You can't. It's much harder to optimize the way that I did. You wouldn't be able to optimize now the way that I did back then. But, getting that foothold at the time that I did, I used to say I was lucky, but I never say that anymore because I worked my butt off.
Yeah, exactly. You do. If you have a business and the business is successful, you have worked to get to that point. It's not given to you.
Absolutely not. And I think that the challenge sometimes for people is that they see the end result and they want to get there so quickly. And I get that, they really do. They want to be there today. And that's great. And I also don't say but. And you've got to be prepared for the slog. And,
and it is.
Right. I also don't really like that kind of, that very masculine hustle,
I was going to actually ask you about that, Leah, because I, my learning is all male based and this is not a beat up on men.
No.
However, we have to recognize that for women in business, you need to think about things a little differently. And it isn't always about the hustle.
Right.
It's actually about gaining the flow of your life and your business together and flowing with that versus hustle, 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 hustle.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And there's something in that idea of hustle that I think makes people think that they have to be constantly pushing up against things.
Yeah.
And actually, that's not what I experienced at all, because I think, I've had that in more recent times, you grow and you kind of go, okay, well, where to next? But honestly, in the early days, because I wasn't expecting anything specific, I was in the flow of it. And
that's a beautiful thing, Leah.
Yeah, I know. And I'm so grateful for that because I really enjoyed what I was doing and because I was kind of caught up in the joy of it. It never felt hard. It always felt enjoyable and I couldn't wait to get up every morning. Whereas, when I was working for somebody else, there was that struggle because I was tired and, I enjoyed what I did back then too, but just a completely different story now because I get to choose, right?
And that is the thing. And that's often what prompts people into business is that idea around freedom.
Right.
And it takes a fair amount of time to figure all those components out.
Yes.
You'll go through that period of like work. And then that's not sustainable. So then you relook at things and discover a new way of doing things. And all of those processes and all of that, it takes time.
Yes.
So there are not many overnight successes out there. That's not realistic for people to think. So I love the story that it started from your own snow globe. And I wanted to know the Steve Martin story and how that came into place.
For sure. So that was probably, and the reason why I kind of, talk about this Hollywood star bringing my business to life was because it was the first moment that I think I knew I was onto something, because so I'll start from the beginning.
Yeah.
So this was before I had my own office. I was working from home, just in a little back bedroom, and I got an inquiry via the website that said that they were looking for custom snow globes that were for Steve Martin to celebrate his AFI award, which was presented to him in, I think it was 2015, 2014 or 2015. And so all of these, you know, the Hollywood royalty of comedy were going to be presenting him with this big gala. And so, you know, one of his people had been tasked with getting fantastic gifts. So I got this inquiry form, and it had a name on it who I was to contact. And but the request was quite a short period of time, and custom snow globes generally take upwards of 3 months to produce, you know, in quantities. So I was concerned that the timeline was very short, but I was so enthusiastic because I've loved Steve Martin for years. You know, I remember watching his live comedy routines when I was quite young and just adored him. Love all his movies. My family love him. My dad loves him, you know, just that real connection with him. So I jumped on the phone to LA to call this number and asked for the person, and got put through, and was having a good old chat about, you know, what we might be able to do. But, you know, I'm worried about the timeline because it is quite short, but I'm such a huge fan of Steve's, you know, I'd really love to find a way to do this. And it was at that point that the person on the other end of the phone said, well, I should probably tell you, this is Steve.
Oh, wow.
I kind of lost my sweet little mind a little bit. And it still makes me just laugh so much.
Funny. That's beautiful, isn't it?
It was, and it was just such a portentous moment, I suppose is a great word for it, because I mean, you know, he's just a person at the end of the day, but I just had that feeling, oh my God, you know, if my website has caught the attention of someone like Steve Martin,
how cool.
I'm onto something, you know. Well, how cool, yes. How grateful am I to be talking to this person? And he was so lovely, you know, very dry, he would come up with a line like when you didn't expect it, you know, but also he was so easy to work with, like really fast to respond, and very gracious. And so that was one of the absolute highlights of my career. And it kind of kicked me off with the feeling that, well, I think I can kind of take this a little bit further, do this. You know? And the website was very basic at that point. It was just sort of a white background, and I had almost like a cartoony kind of logo. So it was before I sort of realized that I could go into that more premium luxury, you know, beautiful experience. But he responded to it how it was, and you know, I've had several high profile projects since then that I always dig them. I always love doing those projects, but I love all of my projects. They're all so much fun.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite, Leah?
Well, another one of the early
aside
ones,
from Steve, obviously that was a favorite, like that's a given.
Well, the coolest thing about those was that they were given to so many people that I'm also a fan of. So, you know, the list of people was like Tina Fey, Dan Aykroyd, Mel Brooks, you know, Sarah Silverman, Lily Tomlin, you know, it was ridiculous, the people who have one. And so now I kind of, you know, Lorne Michaels, now I will see shows, I'll be watching a show and I'll go, oh, they've got one of my globes. They've got one. It's so much fun. So, but then another one that kind of had that same feeling, which was another early project, but it was the first really larger quantity project that I got. So it was 500 globes to be given as gifts to the cast and crew of the Quentin Tarantino film, The Hateful Eight.
Oh, wow.
So that was, if you recall the film, if you've seen it, it was Samuel L. Jackson, it was Kurt Russell, it was Channing Tatum, this,
Absolutely.
again, Hollywood royalty, and I'm a huge Kurt Russell fan. Big crush. And so that was a big one, and they did a reorder to be given out at the Oscars as well. So it was just magical.
Lovely.
And so it was a great profit project, but also super high profile, and was one of those things that ended up on the desks of a lot of different producers, and my name was on the bottom of it, so it kind of got noticed. That was a really cool one.
Very exciting.
So I've been very grateful to have those sorts of projects. They're just so much fun.
Leah, I wanted to talk to you, if you could, about the process of making a snow globe, so the audience gets to understand that a lot goes into these.
Yes. And you would be quite shocked to, I'm actually going to give away some industry secrets here, because these are things that honestly it took me, I mean, I'm nerding out at this kind of stuff. It may be, I don't know, hopefully it's not boring to the audience, but
no, I'm loving the conversation. Keep going.
Well, this is stuff that I didn't even learn until as recently as, say, 4 or 5 years ago. So the humble snow globe is a delicate and very temperamental creature. I'll kind of talk you through it with this example here, which is one that I did recently for, again, talking about the Oscars. So this is for the gift shop at the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures, which is in Los Angeles. And the team there sell this in their gift shop, along with some glass ornaments that I've produced for them. So the way that the process starts is we start with the digital design. So in this case, this is a relatively straightforward design, because it's the Oscars statuette. We already could get access to a 3D model of that statuette.
I was going to ask you how the 3D modeling, is it done by 3D printers nowadays, or
so it's a little bit
molded?
Of a mix. Yeah, it's a little bit of a mix. So traditionally, everything would be hand sculpted. So as an example with, so this Friends snow globe that we did. So this is another one that's sold in the Friends Experience gift shop, and it has a little light that turns on. So it's like the opening scene with the couch and the waterfall behind.
Oh, wow.
So this setting was hand sculpted in clay. And then so we go back and forth and we finalize the actual detail of the sculpture, and it's only tiny,
definitely.
It's like 5 centimeters in diameter. So that's hand sculpted. It gets molded, and then the quantities are produced from poured resin into the molds. Then every single globe is hand painted. Every single globe is hand assembled. So there's a huge amount of work that goes into them. When we do 3D design and 3D printing, which is really kind of taking over the hand sculpting now, which in many ways I find it a little bit of a shame, but it's much better for the client to be able to review
replicate,
a full turntable 3D.
I was going to say, yeah.
So we can do all of that before we even actually physically print anything. So usually what happens these days is we do a full 3D design that is created from the initial front-facing 2D design, and then that is printed, and then that gets molded, and again, the quantities are created from poured resin, each one hand painted, each one hand assembled. The assembly process is probably the trickiest part of the whole thing. So, you know how I was talking before about snow globes invariably having those air bubbles?
Yes. Yes. One of my questions.
Right. So, so the water by its nature is full of oxygen. It's H2O.
Yes.
So when it gets put into this sealed environment, it inevitably oxygen particles will separate from the water. And over time, even the tiniest little bubble will kind of feed on itself, and the water level will start to go down as that bubble sort of increases. So snow globes need to use a mixture of deoxygenated water, which is done with this machine. This is totally a secret. The tub of distilled water, so it has to be really pure water, goes into a deoxygenation machine that like a vacuum pump. So that turns on, it literally sucks a huge amount of the oxygen out of the water. And then the globe is assembled from that deoxygenated water with usually some sort of disinfectant agent. So
I was thinking mold and, you know.
Right. So for mass production, often we'll use formaldehyde, believe it or not. Right. And then ethyl glycol, which is basically antifreeze. So it has those components to stop mold growing. It also has the antifreeze to stop them from freezing. They will freeze if they're left out in below zero temperatures for more than about 24 hours. So this is another thing that we have to consider when we're shipping, especially to the States. You know,
cargo. Well, even just cargo holds in planes are cold.
Yes, exactly. So they're generally, when they're packed, you know, they're packed in an eco foam, they're packed in cardboard boxes, and then they're kind of packed together. So they're usually pretty safe. But once they get separated out, if they're being delivered individually to people, you don't want UPS leaving it on someone's doorstep overnight in the snow. So
because your snow globes, the globe is glass, isn't it? It's not plastic.
Correct. So the other interesting sort of sciencey thing about it is that when the globes are assembled, you generally assemble them with the water at a relatively low temperature, so less than 4 degrees Celsius. That way, when they come to, so the water actually shrinks, or the water particles shrink when it gets cold. And then once it's assembled and it comes back to room temperature, that water expands again.
And it's not going to have bubbles or...
So you can never sort of guarantee it, but I do actually offer a customer guarantee for 0 air bubbles. And I'm a little bit crazy, so I offer it as a lifetime guarantee. So if somebody ever gets an air bubble in one of my globes, I say we will replace it or refund, you know, whatever we need to do, because I really like to stand behind it. And to me,
and yours are really special, Leah, as well. They would take a special place. Like I can see them sitting on mantelpieces and, you know, coffee tables. And,
I hope so.
You know, oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So. But, you know, even like eventually some, you know, a couple of 100 years down the line, I'm sure that, you know, if they're still around.
When your granddaughter's running the business.
Or my nieces. I actually don't have kids, so I don't have that that opportunity so much. But my nieces and my grandnieces, hopefully. So that would be nice to think that there's some sort of legacy. But you know, the original. There is, I think there are only 4 in the world of the original Paris Exposition snow globes, which is an Eiffel Tower snow globe. And they're, you know, the water's like down to the bottom and it's gunky in there and everything. But it's such a, that was like 1889, the Paris Exposition, when they were first released.
Wow. What a fascinating insight into such a unique business, Leah. The other component that I wanted to talk to you about today is that idea from your perspective about leaving legacy and being responsible and aiming for a better world. And there's lots of things that you do in the business to ensure that. So, and one of those things, as you mentioned before, was the eco phone, which is great stuff. It's great stuff. Little side story. When we had goats, you would get packages with the eco foam in it or popcorn. They thought that was fantastic and they would eat it. But not only would they eat that, but they loved cardboard. So they were like my eco combusting.
Goats will eat anything.
So it caused me to smile when I was reading your stuff and going about the eco-phone. But there's lots of things that you do. Can you talk to the audience about those things that are important to you in maintaining our climate, and the way that you manufacture, produce, enables you to stay with that idea?
For sure. Yes. So, you know, I kind of feel like there's so much more that I want to do, and I think we all feel that way. You know, I've talked with people who kind of say, you know, oh, I want to start the business off with, you know, this, you know, made in Australia, or made, or you know, all sorts of eco kind of approaches. And I do think that it's difficult because we want to do that, and at the same time we have to be able to build our businesses enough to sometimes work towards that, right? So you know, simple little things that I do. My website is hosted on the only green web hosting platform that I know of. They're a company called Life Solutions. Give them a shout out, because they're fantastic.
That beautiful website that we spoke about earlier in the program, those guys did it. Yeah.
Well, actually, I have to take the credit for that. They host it. I built that website.
You built it. They host it. Yeah.
They host it. Yeah. And they're really, you know, like everything that they do is renewable, and they use renewable energy. And so I really dig that opportunity just for a small little thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness, there we go. Is our internet playing up? Damn. I'm going to keep talking because I'm hoping that Leah will. There we go. We had a freeze moment.
I just noticed that.
It's all good. That's what we have editing for.
Cool.
So we were talking about the way that your business in particular, using eco foam and all the rest of it. What other things do you do besides the website and the eco foam?
Yes.
And the cardboard is renewable as well.
Right, absolutely. And to me, those are all givens. They're standard things that we all should be aiming for, rather than using, you know, cheap styrofoam and stuff like that. So paying a little bit more for that stuff is absolutely where I'm at now. I also am really passionate about the opportunities that I take up with the Brotherhood of St Lawrence. So they have a program called Stepping Stones, which is basically a mentoring program for refugee women who've come to Australia who want to start their own business. And I feel that, well, I certainly have a lot of experience that I can pass on to these women who are just delightful. I've worked with 3 different women. One girl is an artist who wanted to produce some products to represent her Muslim culture and her religious kind of, just her religious personality. So I worked with her to create a range of products that she could sell with her art on them. The second lady I worked with, a lady by the name of Yemen, she was selling a coffee product, but she kind of wanted to up the ante, and she wanted something that would be fulfilling and financially rewarding for her ongoing. And the coffee wasn't quite working, but we worked together and discovered that she's really passionate about herbal tea. So we built her business around her creating a very specific range of herbal tea blends. And we built her website together. And so she now has her website, which is TosanePremiumTea.com. And she's actually got some of the teas in our local gift shop here downstairs. And she's and her website is stunning as well, so check that out. She was an amazing mentee because she just listened and she really implemented everything that I talked to her about. And she was really she was passionate, but she was also, very process driven. And I'm so proud of what she achieved. So, and I'm proud of myself for being able to give that to her.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, really important program, Stepping Stones. And if you're in the position to be a mentor and to pass on, the things that you've learned, I highly recommend it, because it does need, it needs funding at the moment. So if anybody's in the position to support Stepping Stones with funding, please reach out to the Brotherhood of St Lawrence. It is an amazing program. And then the other thing that I'm really passionate about that I'm working on at the moment is, so full transparency, currently my production can only be in China. China is literally the only country that produces snow globes in quantities. And
And you need the quantities because
I do.
Important part of what you do.
Right, absolutely. I've done orders of 10,000 globes for J. Crew. So, I need to be able to provide that within a certain time frame. And I have really good relationships with my factories there. They are not the cheapest. They are, absolutely the ones that provide what I need to ensure that the quality is there. And, it's not a perfect world. I really would love to be able to diversify and move away from China over time. So one thing that I'm working really hard on at the moment, and I have pretty much in place, and we're going to be kicking this off in the second half of the year, is some small production in the United States, which I'm so excited about.
Wow. Oh, that's a biggie. That's a biggie.
So that's going to kind of shake up the production process. So I was talking before about how we do 3D design, and then we print the model, and then we mold it and create the quantities. What we're going to do in this situation is diversify into full color 3D printing for all of the quantities. So we don't need to hand paint.
Oh, that's exciting as well, Leah.
Yeah. So the challenge has been getting the assembly in place because, as you can imagine, having described how that process works, it's not easy.
My mind just going, ooh,
ooh. But I actually have it in place. So we're going to be doing some sort of small run test projects over the next 6 months. I do have one larger order that is going to be sort of a touchstone project for starting this off. And I'm so excited where it could take us because...
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. I mean,
because once you're manufacturing in the US, then that opens you up to those bigger US orders that are deliverable in the States versus coming from Australia. Because, let's face it, Australia is a long way from anywhere.
Yes, absolutely.
A long way from anywhere.
Yes, that's right. And, the truth is that 95% of my clients are in the States. So I didn't say that before, but that's the reason for choosing the United States.
Absolutely.
The majority of my clients are there.
They're a massive marketplace as well.
Right.
They're like the engine room almost of the globe. So it's, Leah, you work with so many different people, and that having to be a known celebrity should not stop you from working with snow globes. And you've got a bit of an offer for the audience today. What's that?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a general offer on my website, I always offer free quotes, of course. Why wouldn't you? But along with a free quote, I also always give a 30-minute free consultation. So that's to discuss, and that's online, obviously. So that's to discuss the design that you might be interested in so that you can get an idea of what's possible. I can show you, lots of other projects that we've done.
Oh, look, a square one.
But so that's a Calvin Klein one. This one, Soul Cycle, pretty simple one. And then this one's really cute. This was for a B&B that wanted their building in there. That's got a little light in it as well. So
I love that they've got lights in them.
Yeah, I don't just work with high profile celebrities. I work with lots of businesses. I work with charities. I work with universities and schools and gift shops. Any opportunity to put some sort of unique, beautiful setting in a snow globe, I'm there for it. So that free 30-minute consultation just helps you understand what we can achieve. And then we also do a free 2D digital design. So that's an example of what the globe would look like from the front-facing view. So I do all of that before clients confirm an order because I do feel really passionate. I'm all about customer service. I believe that you need to give and show what you're prepared to do.
Absolutely.
Because this is a big leap to place an order, of 500 globes. That's a big leap to take, and it's quite a bit of money, and you want to be sure that what you're getting is, you're clear on it before you commit.
Is that the minimum? Do you have a minimum order, or
generally
they need to talk to you?
Well, generally at the moment it's 500 globes.
Fair enough.
However, with the US production side of things, and it will be a little bit design dependent because we do have some limitations with the 3D design and printing, but I'll be able to do much less quantities with that. Like I'll be able to do as few as, 10 globes with 3D printing. So
okay.
the cost obviously kind of will play around with that.
Leah, the size of the globes,
yes,
you can go from like quite small to quite big, yeah?
Yeah, most of my projects are either 100 millimeter, which is this size here, or 120 millimeter, which is this size here. That's a Mercedes-Benz globe. So, so they're the two most popular sizes. The 80 millimeter, which is, a size down again from this. The only problem that we run into is that because there's so much handwork that goes into them.
Yeah, the smaller they
the smaller they are, the harder they are sometimes. Yeah. So there's not that much of a cost difference between this size and the smaller size, but this size tends to have a really nice sort of selling price point of around $80 per piece they sell for. And this size can sell for upwards of, $130 US per piece. So it's really, it makes more sense to go for the bigger ones because they don't cost that much more.
And they're really then like a centerpiece, aren't they? Sort of
100%.
Leah, what's the biggest one you've done?
Oh, I've done a 150.
Is there a size limit?
Yeah, there definitely is. So I've done a 150 millimeter. You can actually see it on the back corner. See the there's my Mad Men box because I'm a huge Mad Men fan. And there's a big 150 millimeter up there. So it's about this big. It weighs about 3 kilograms. But apparently, and I haven't done one yet, you can get 200 millimeters. Which would be,
that would be magnificent.
Very big, yeah.
Like imagine that with a like a spinning mechanism and lights and creative imaginative brain just goes to those places. But wow.
It'd be probably quite hard to pick up because it'd probably weigh about 10 kilos or something. You pick it up and shake it like that and then put it down again. But apparently they are possible.
An automatic press button shaker, like press this button and the
that does exist.
It becomes a snow globe. Yeah. Oh, amazing. Leah, what a wonderful conversation to have with you today. I've got one more question.
Sure.
And it's one of my favorite ones to ask. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh, my goodness. Well, given my plan to, expand into the US, I do have a bit of a big dream of having dual citizenship in the US and Australia, kind of being, bi-coastal. Is that what they call it? Bi-country. And, traveling back and forth with an amazing established facility, possibly in the Midwest, but I also I have a dream of living in Colorado. So
oh my God. I was going to say Colorado. I could just see you in Colorado because it is so beautiful.
Yeah.
And the snow and the sea, like that would be perfection for the Queen of Snow Globes.
I know, right?
I think that dual. I live in Colorado in this time, and I live in Melbourne, Australia for this time. Like what a wonderful vision that creates. All from those humble beginnings of going, wow, this is pretty cool, this snow globey thing. And for an Australian to have done it just makes me so proud that I'm talking to you and to see and hear what you've created. Well done, Leah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Toni. That's so gracious of you. And it's always lovely to have these sorts of conversations because it makes me remember, sometimes in the day-to-day when it's tough, right?
Yes.
It's so nice to have those moments to kind of just
look
go,
where I've come from. Look what we've created. Look what the plans are for the future. And I think the time for being a global entrepreneur and that ability to live in different countries and continents and still be connected is doable now more than ever.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely doable. So if there's anyone listening today and you've listened to Leah's story of her business journey, I encourage you, if there's a little hint of imagination and creativity in there, just go with it. and think about what might become.
And have fun.
Absolutely, absolutely. Again, I can't think of snow globes without thinking of Leah now, and it brings a beautiful smile. It makes me happy, and that's one of the things that is peculiar to snow globes. They just make people happy, and that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
Leah Andrews, thank you for coming on the Everyday Business Show with me today. Don't forget, audience, we have Leah's links attached to this interview today. But if you Google Queen of Snow Globes, you will find everything there is to know about Leah. Leah Andrews, thank you for being on Everyday Business Show today.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, Toni.
And that, my wonderful people, is the show for today. We will be back with another great interview soon. Leah, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Please jump onto Leah's website. You will love it. It's magical. It's beautiful. Connect with her and see what you might be able to create in your own life. And that, my friends, is your lot for today. Bye-bye. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Everyday Business Show. I'm your host, Toni Lontis, and today we have another amazing gift to chat to and interview. But before we do that, I just want to remind you, if you're listening on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, or the Everyday Women's Network, please know that you will find the notes regarding our wonderful guest today attached to wherever you're watching this interview. If you've missed any of the business shows, please catch up on the Everyday Women's Network, YouTube, or all over socials. I encourage you to reach out to our guests. They provide phenomenal value to you, the audience, and always provide amazing gifts for you to either connect with them or find out more about what they do. And our guest today, Andrew Eggleton, is no different. Now, before I get on with the show, I want to do our welcome to country. And you know, regular listeners, this is an integral part of our show. So I want to acknowledge the people of the Yugambeh language region on the Gold Coast, Queensland, Australia, the traditional owners of the land on which we meet. And I want to pay my respects to the elders, past, present and emerging, and all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples listening or watching today. Now, our guest, Andrew, comes with a wonderful history in TV and media, and today's show is about becoming the most authentic speaker in the room. Before I introduce you, though, here's what you need to know about Andrew. Andrew is a presenting mentor, a communications expert, a TED Talk coach, and runs events across the globe. He says, when we simply share information, we are operating at level 1 of presenting. It doesn't move the audience, it doesn't connect with the audience, and it doesn't make you a speaker to be remembered. Level 1, or the age of the technical, will no longer serve us moving forward. Hallelujah to that. We are entering the age of connection, and this requires presenters to connect with their audience. And to do this, they have to first be connected to themselves. It sounds simple, but it can be difficult for many of us to accomplish. Experiences enrich the brain more than knowledge does. And that's the difference that Andrew makes. If a CEO, TED speaker, or presenter on a camera or boardroom is simply sharing information with no understanding of the craft of presenting, they are not using tools to connect and move their audience deeply. And that's what Andrew specializes in. After 28 years experience on the stage and across TV, he now helps others in the presenting and speaking space. And his style encourages you to step away from the technical aspects of approaching presenting into authenticity and connecting with your audience. Andrew, thank you for joining us live on the show today. I've been looking forward to this chat for quite a while. How are you today? And welcome to the show.
I'm really good. I'm sitting here in the same state
Yay!
as you, sunny Queensland, and I actually enjoyed a couple of days of rain.
Yeah.
And of course now a return to normal, which is blue skies.
On the Gold Coast today. Yesterday we had almost cyclonic rain and sideways wind and rain together. Today it's pretty sunny, but it's still blowing a gale. So I don't know what it's like in Brisbane, but it's kind of cool on the Gold Coast.
We've got it pretty good. We've got it pretty good.
We have. Andrew, I thought I'd start the show with one of the quotes that you like, and it goes like this: your imperfections are the window of which you let your audience in. What a wonderful sentence. Can you tell us about that?
Oh, I said that a while ago. It was one of those things that I said from stage and then acknowledged out loud how good it was.
It is. It's very good.
So the imperfections are the window which you let your audience in. It means that on stage, people will accept you for who you are. And no one really has a problem with you forgetting your words or you stumbling or falling or showing parts of your character that aren't perfect, that have the rough edges. Now, I'm going to add to that, because just thinking about this is what people can fall into with thinking of what authenticity is. And by that quote is that I'm good enough as it is. This is just the way I am. But there's no excuse for not wanting to be the best or great or good at what it is that you do, but you're able to do that still with these imperfections. So I don't know if many people know this, but orchestras, or when someone's playing, will often hit off notes to connect with the audience, because perfection doesn't resonate with the heart.
I didn't know that. That's a wonderful point to consider when I'm stumbling over my words and not quite saying exactly what I want to say. And someone said to me the other day, Andrew, do you not watch your shows? And I actually said, well, no. And the reason I don't is because I'm my biggest critic. And I would rather show up and do an interview on my own terms with all of its said imperfections than have something that's scripted and perfect.
Yes.
That's hard, actually. That's hard for me not to rewatch and criticize or critique or think or understand where I can make improvements. It's actually hard for me to just sit with that and go, it's okay. I'm human. It's just an interview. It's going to be okay. Andrew, I'm curious. Sorry, go ahead.
My question to you is, would you like to know what creates that icky feeling when we watch ourselves back? Do you want to know what it is?
I've always thought that it was my imperfection, but what is it from your experience, Andrew?
Yeah, it's the disparity between who you really are and who you're trying to be on camera or on stage. That's what people struggle with. So they're not seeing themselves. They're hearing a change in the tone of their voice.
Yeah.
And they're seeing unnatural behavior in the way that they look and behave. And that's the jarring part. So they're not seeing them. So it's hard to watch. That's what it is. Yeah, it's not the imperfections. It's the actually
really
it's the presenter trying to be their fantasy or perception of what perfect is. And of course, you can't pull that off.
Oh, wow.
Because it's a fantasy.
Gosh, you will find this so interesting, Andrew. I'm working with a specialist a coach at the moment. I like to always be working with someone in some capacity because that's what drives me forward. And we're having a similar conversation about what authenticity looks like. Again, I was excited to chat with you today. But before we get into that a little bit deeper, I want to know, after all those years in TV land, what prompted the change to do what you do now?
Okay, it's pretty easy. There's probably two parallel things. One was I had always had, during my time on TV, a fascination or curiosity as to what did authenticity truly mean? What did just be you mean?
Yeah.
And it was because when not only did I act and had a pretty good career in the acting field, but I was a TV presenter. But that was my main passion, was TV presenting. Acting I just seemed to get away with it. It's a good way of describing it. TV presenting, and so a director would say to you, will say to me often, it's like, Andrew, just be you. That would be their direction. Just be you, and I just want to see you. But I just delivered me. And so the confusing thing was, but I just gave you me. So what they were really saying was, Andrew, we want this part of you. And to be more specific, we want the part where Andrew's smiling and has his fun voice on, and hey, welcome. I'm Andrew Eggleton, and welcome to Getaway Travel. Today we're going to, so it was more the excitable boy next door, smiling, invitational Andrew. So you don't want just be me. You want that part of me. So it's very different. So I used to find that used to bug me and go, so you don't want just be me then. Just tell me then what you want me to do. And so my directors would slowly go, oh, this person's pushing back on that. Because people who say just be you means nothing.
Yeah.
It's so ambiguous. And it's because no one really can explain it further. So just be you means this. So that was my fascination. I was like, what does that mean? What does that even mean? And I got to a point in TV where I was starting to get more into the public speaking. That was exciting me. And I got tired of, believe it or not, TV can be very factory-like.
Yeah.
You walk into a big studio, it becomes monotonous. And I just went, I've done this, I've ticked these boxes, what's next? And it was either a move to probably Los Angeles, which I lasted about a month, and just went, this isn't for me. This is not the life I want. And so I took a little bit of time out, actually, and lived in Indonesia. And I sat there with, I removed all my labels and asked myself, what's next? What's next? And I kept asking, what does just be you mean? Yes. So then we're off.
And that's what kickstarted your business as it is today.
Yeah.
When I'm listening to you talk about LA, the word authenticity is not something that you generally associate with LA. Was that the it for you? That it just
it was. It was. That's a big part of it. That was a big part of it. It felt out of integrity for me, and of course I probably didn't know at the time or know how to label it or articulate that. But I don't know. I kind of then sat down and designed my life, and I wanted to be traveling around the world and speaking, and I was actually teaching people how to present the camera, and I discovered through that the way that I was teaching it seemed to be very different, because I wasn't comparing myself to others. Seemed to be very different than what everyone was used to coming into the room. And I was just noticing people's reactions and noticing how fast they would pick all these aha moments and I started to step back and go, maybe I'm onto something that I didn't know that I was onto. Maybe all my time thinking about this stuff and overthinking this stuff is conducive to getting the best out of these people in a way that I didn't even know. And most people just kept on asking me, do you teach public speakers as well? And I was like, well, yeah, why not? It's the same for me. It's the same thing. It's the same. One's the camera, and obviously one's on stage, but it's the same rules, the same principles of authenticity. It's the same rules of using your voice to create different landscapes for your audience. It's the same stuff, just slightly different tools and where you're standing and looking. And I don't care so much about the technical things. I care about the connection.
Yeah.
Hmm.
We come back to that beautiful word, authenticity, which is, talked about quite a bit. It's not only important to me, but it's incredibly important to you. Can you run the audience through why authenticity is so very ingrained in Andrew? Why it's so important? Is it because of that experience in TV and then in LA where the fakeness tends to overrun anything else, that you're required to be something that you're not? Is that what it is for you, Andrew? And is that what it is about teaching people to speak from that perspective versus anything else?
Oh, such a challenging question. Why? I mean, authenticity was really a big buzzword 2008, 17, 18, 19.
Yes.
And then it became overused, but it only became overused because the wrong people were using it.
I agree.
Because people were bandying about the word authenticity, but yet if you ask them, well, what does it mean? They were like, well, it means just be you. And you're like, well, what does that mean? And then there's no answer. So they have
who you
no
are.
idea.
Do you know what floats your boat, what makes you happy, what you need to survive as a human? Those are those pieces of authenticity.
So for me, it's being able to recognize or feel when I'm acting out of the conditioned self or the authentic self. So when am I adding layers to me instead of just being me? So I'm going to give you an example. We've been sold a story that we need to be more, and social media doesn't help. So we've always been sold a story that we need to be more, and public speaking, presented the camera in a way, but definitely public speaking hasn't really evolved in decades, decades. It's the same worn out technical things. Stand here, do this, power stances, all the rubbish that means nothing.
Speak this way.
So we've been sold that the state that you're in isn't good enough to be on stage, that you have to change your state to be something else. But so the idea of reality, the idea of authenticity and the reality are actually quite hard to accept when I'm training someone and their brand might be upbeat and excitable big and bold, but I don't know about you, but I don't wake up in the morning
big and bold.
I wish that I was waking up in the morning all the time. And that's the problem. So most of the time, now and then, I wake up and I go, holy wow, I'm on fire today. I'm magnetic. I don't know what's happening in the planets, but watch out, world. And then the next day it's gone. So now I'm lucky if I get to present that day.
Yeah.
But most of the time I'm not. So what happens if I have to go present and I'm not authentic is that I'm sitting in the car and I'm trying to change how I am. I'm trying to get into a better state, and that better state is my idea or the conditioned self of what that better state is. It might be what Tony Robbins tells you it is, or it might be what public speaking coaches have told you what it is. All of them, in my opinion, are wrong because they're not you. Right? So there's no authenticity in that. You can't chase authenticity when you get to the side of stage and go, oh, my state's not good enough today.
Yes.
You're judging who you are in that moment to be wrong and not good enough for your audience. But what authenticity or learning what authenticity and learning, you know, all the tools that I use to teach it, is you start to recognize that there's no wrong or right or good or bad.
Yeah.
The perfection
Because,
happens in the authenticity.
and it actually, so part of that puzzle piece of authenticity is around trust. Do you trust that you will be the right person on that stage for what the audience needs to hear? Is that it, Andrew? That trust piece, that understanding, whatever you are on the stage that day or presenting that day, if you have trust and you've done the work. So say someone's done the work with you, they should be, no matter how they feel, showing up on that stage as they are and understand that the audience will glean from them what they need to.
That day. Yep.
So that trust bit
Yep.
links to authenticity. And if you can't trust yourself or trust the process or trust the training, say they've worked with you, if they don't have trust in that process, then that's going to cause them to be inauthentic. Have I got it right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so if you think about that, energy is information. Energy is information. So I can tell you, I can stand up on stage and I can tell you, I'm feeling really excited to be here today. And you'll be in the audience, you go, you're saying that, but I don't know, there's something off. It's like when you pitch to somebody and you know, they look at you and they go, okay, we love that pitch, Toni. We're going to come back to you tomorrow. And you go, you say that. See, you get good at it and you go, look, you're saying you love it, but I'm picking up that there's parts of it that you might not like so much. Can you tell me, identify to me what those are? Maybe we can work on them. So the energy is information. So if you're not being authentic, your audience is receiving distorted signals. Your words are saying one thing. Your words are saying one thing. And often when people don't know how to use their voice, their tone gives it away as well, because they don't know how to control their tone and build those interesting landscapes for the audience. But the energy they're receiving is not matching up with the words or their body language of trying to be excited or trying to be, or you presenters fight back often with me because they go, oh no, because you have to walk on stage with a smile on your face because the statistics say it warms people up and creates a connection. And I'm like, rubbish. Whoever designed that was probably 1960s. So
yes,
I don't have to feel like I need to smile to walk on stage because I know, and I'm okay with saying that I'm a likable person. So when I go on stage, I'm already likable. I don't need to smile at you all to go, hey, I'm likable with a fake smile. Because if I don't feel like smiling, then I'm not authentic. But what they will pick up within a very short amount of time of me speaking and being very present with them is that, oh, I like him. So if I'm already inspiring, I don't need to try and be inspiring. If I'm already likable, I don't need to try and be likable. If I'm already kind of smart in what it is that I'm talking about, I don't need to try and show you that I'm smart. I need to show you that I'm trustworthy because I'm already those things. And so what people tend to do is they project what they want people to see. And that projection tends to be likable, trustworthy, inspiring, knowledgeable, all these things. And they're all your perceptions of what those are.
So, Andrew, if you're going to present or speak at an event and you're not feeling bold as brass or on top of the world, I'm wondering if you have the courage to show up as your authentic self, can, over the course of that presentation, your state change and move and shift?
Yeah, absolutely.
But that act of being authentic in that first moment is the key thing to continuing in an authentic way.
Yeah. So I would work moment to moment and
Ah,
allow what to happen and things go with. So I mean, up until mid last year, I mean, and during COVID, of course, my
yes.
my business was international retreats and events, and so
Yeah.
I was always jet lagged. I didn't even know what not jet lagged was. So
Uh-huh.
tired, sometimes grumpy, sometimes my memory was tired and
Yeah.
I'd forget things. So I could go out there and pretend to be energetic and alive, or I could be jet lagged and just deliver my information, but use a level of craft to deliver it in um, use my tone, use my voice to articulate in a clear way. But of course, when I accepted who I was, and when I accepted that I was tired, and as soon as you start to see that the audience accepts you as well, you're off. And
Yeah.
what I found is that I would give my best talks
Yeah.
because there was so much freedom. I was free to be tired. I was free to be seen tired, but it didn't stop me sharing my wisdom.
Needed to share. Yeah. And
It didn't
that
stop that.
connects you to your audience. That's how they remember you. They remember
Mm.
what you said. Yeah.
Yeah, yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Andrew, your business, as you said, is global, and you run programs for people who want to speak or want to be better speakers. Can you tell us a little bit more about your business? You've talked to me about it before, but I want the audience to understand if you're thinking about wanting to speak, wanting to present, even if
Mm.
it's just standing up in front at your own retreats. There's an
Yes, it's
of
huge.
presenting that requires,
Yeah.
and if you're going to do that, you want to do it in the most authentic way that you can. So, Andrew, I'd love for you to tell the audience how they can work with you.
Sure, I'll give you the model of how I work, but this is why having a sense. So craft is how you do what you do.
Mm-hmm.
The how you choose how your audience receive your words. You choose that. You choose how they sound. You choose the way that I say home is different than most people who will say home.
Mm-hmm.
Now, home needs to feel warm and grounding. So
Yeah.
I get my voice and the craft creates that landscape, and many words peppered over the day will ground people. And when I'm pitching to a corporate, the first 2 minutes, they're not even listening to what I'm saying. They're listening to how I sound and how I'm making them feel. And my intention is purely about grounding them and getting them present. Then their mind to someone use the word seduce. Then their mind is seduced, but not beforehand. I got to get their trust and ground them, get them present. They've got a million and one things going on their minds. How do I bring them all here? So what people tend to forget is that speaking generally is just transactional. It's purely transactional, and this is going past transactional into having some idea of what craft is. And when we have a level of craft, it will start to dictate the words that we use as well. So I say the how starts to dictate the what, because you'll stop using words that just lack feeling or lack potency, and you want the things that leave your lips to feel good, to sound good, and it gives you the discipline of learning the craft, gives you a sense of freedom when you're speaking, because you have all these tools to take people on a journey. Even the short pauses, or I call them suspended presence, when you deliberately leave a massive pause before finishing a sentence, just the last part, and the audience they're hanging there, they're waiting you suspended. You know what I mean? These are the things it gives you so much freedom to play with. You're constantly building new landscapes for the audience to listen to, instead of, it's a long day when you're running a retreat or
Yeah.
you're pitching or doing a keynote for an hour and a half, or pitching for an hour or 45 minutes, and you have no idea how to build contrast or make points stand out, or you don't think clearly under pressure, or someone's on their phone and you're like, how do I address this? And you get in your head and you start to lose your train of thought. That ability to go, hey, I put a lot of work into this presentation. I'd really appreciate if you put your phone down.
Phone down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's the tone, it's the delivery, the assertiveness. So this is the craft. Now, how do I teach is I do one-on-ones.
Yes.
I do one-on-ones. I sometimes put group short turnaround, like 6 to 8 week programs together.
Yes.
For people. So, one-on-ones, group programs. I have my LinkedIn group, my Facebook group that
and we have the links attached to this interview, by the way, audience, for you to afterwards.
Yeah, and I've had a gap. I've taken a break from my live events and retreats. While I've watered I've been watering the corporate market, and I've been really enjoying it, and it's fruitful. I've been enjoying it more than I expected. So I've been enjoying that.
I need a lot of help, Andrew. Between you and me, there's probably a lot.
They really do.
That space.
They really do. Yep. There's a lot. It's very untrained in communication, and there's a lot of this is just the way I am. Yeah. And so it's going to be, well, what about if you're just the way you are, but you had some amazing tools to be able to communicate better and present better and be remembered and influence and persuade people better? What if you were just that person? Would that be a little bit more fun in this world of being able to get your own way or influence people or change people's lives? So yeah, those are the parts, and then I'll get back to my events and retreats will get back up, but it's the space.
It is part of the message that I've been receiving as well, is to create space in your life to grow and learn and change and just let things be. I think that was one of the wonderful things of COVID, creating space. We had to look inwards rather than outwards. We had to slow down, all of those things. Andrew, before we get to the last part of this interview, I'd really like, you've got amazing tools in your toolkit. Which one, in your opinion, do you think is the most powerful tool in a speaker's toolkit?
I would say step one of my methodology, which I'm happy to share with you. Would you like that?
Oh, I would love that. Thank you.
Okay. So before, most people procrastinate doing videos, and the symptom is procrastination, but it's not the problem. Okay, the problem is that they are waiting for the right state to be in to do those videos. That's where procrastination comes from. It's like, I have to, God, after nearly 30 years, I still do it myself, but I recognize it and I pull my head in. So you want to do those training videos, you want to do that Facebook Live, you're like,
as you're saying it, I'm recognizing that in myself and going, oh, yeah, that, okay.
Yeah. So if you're waiting for that right moment in that state, you could be waiting anywhere from 1 week to 3 years.
Yeah.
For that moment to go, that's the state that I wanted to be into these videos. Now, what videos was I doing? And I better shoot them all today. So procrastination, is waiting for that state. So here's step one. Before I present or I go on stage, I simply ask, what state am I in today? And it can be agitated, tired, melancholic, frustrated, happy, cheeky, obnoxious, whatever I'm in. That's me today. And then I describe how it's making me feel. It's like I'm a little bit snappy. I'm a little bit slower in my words. I don't feel quite as energetic. And then I go, the state is not good or bad, wrong or right, or negative or positive to my presenting. This is what just be you means. And then I step up and deliver. And I always deliver because I've accepted how I am right now. I've accepted it. Like right now, you wouldn't say I'm like a coiled spring, would you? Do you know what I mean? I'm not in one of those, I feel magnetic and excitable moods. I'm in a very, I'm a little bit tired. I'm a little bit, if I just described it, it would match the way that I'm speaking right now. You know what I mean? But I'm feeling grounded.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I haven't gone, oh, I need to impress people today. I need to be exciting, inspiring, magnetic. It's like, well, no, I'm not feeling those things today. So let's feel these things, but still deliver the information that hopefully other people find helpful that I have that they might not have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Andrew, you've got some great gifts for the audience, and I listed them all because I couldn't pick one. I think there's a download of 5 unique voice tools to engage and connect. There's your LinkedIn group. There's a guided audio,
Yes.
and there's something else too.
Oh, I'm not sure. The Facebook group, the LinkedIn group, the guided meditation, and the 5.
People can jump on a call with you and just have a chat about what it looks like to work with you, to be that mentor and that authentic speaker that they decided that they wanted to be. Yeah?
Yes, that's correct. It's funny. I don't think anyone would ever regret becoming a better communicator.
Definitely.
It's not something you 20 years down the track and go, oh, I wish I didn't learn how to do that.
Yeah, because you've got decades of experience in this arena, Andrew. You've coached a lot of people. You've helped a lot of executives. This is your passion, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Look, I coach everybody from entrepreneurs and coaches to CEOs, exec teams, management teams, sports stars, TV presenters. Yeah, it's
Amazing.
Rock star coaches flying at the top of the world, and coaches who are just like, oh, I need to do a video, but I don't know what I'm doing. It's nerve-wracking. Yeah.
I know from my own perspective, if I have to give a presentation, do a speech, I will prepare. But oftentimes when I get on the stage, something else is presented. Do you find that true?
Yeah. So that's the rule of thumb I would use is prepare, and then let it go.
Yes.
Let it go. So when people say I'm best when I wing it, I don't believe them, and that's never true. Never true. Okay, it means that you haven't taken the opportunity seriously, and you've really actually probably blown it more than you think you have because you have a false sense of how good you are.
Yeah.
So when you prepare and you prepare, you're like, I know my key points, I know how I can articulate them. But then when you want to get on stage, I teach this part is, I really work in tandem with my brain, which is the technical. This is what I already know. I know this stuff, and it's loaded back there, which has pretty much been this interview. You know what I mean? These are the things I know and I'm sharing. But on stage, I want to open myself up to my heart-brain consciousness as well. What don't I know that may come through today that's right for this audience? Now, that can't happen if you're not being authentic, by the way.
Yeah.
Because you're blocked, you're waiting, you're going, I know what I'm going to say, and I'm going to say it this way. And that's that over. Preparation and practice are different.
This is an intuitive state that allows you to be directed to say, because you don't know what that audience needs to hear in that moment. You don't know that there's someone listening and wanting a piece of advice or wisdom that they can only hear from you in that moment. And if you're closed and not open, you can't be that conduit, can you?
I love that word conduit. Yeah. So I would call that learning how to cultivate a sensitivity to what's true. And so you might be going to say something and it just doesn't feel right. You're like, well, actually,
I'm not going to say
it's a
that.
good sentence. It's a good key point, but I feel like there's something else that's needed in here today. And how can I articulate this today? And that's that cultivating a sensitivity to what's true. And that means it's alive in you.
Absolutely.
And when you articulate things that are alive in you today, they feel different for the audience.
And they make a different impact on your audience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have more weight to them. It has more weight to it.
Andrew, you've seen that again and again and again when people speak from that authentic space or are open to being and showing up as their authentic selves. Those are the times when the audience will remember the words you spoke, the points you made, the speaker that you are. Yeah.
Yep. So your imperfections at the window of which you let your audience in was exactly one of those on stage. And it came out, and because this is what I teach, I get to laugh at myself and go, oh, that was pretty good, wasn't it? Because I'm teaching that. So when those moments happen, I can point them out and people will acknowledge, oh, yes, I felt the difference.
Yeah, makes a difference. Andrew, my final question for today is, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Geez, it changed in COVID. I would have said before COVID, I would have said I would be living in America now. But 5 years from now, I see myself on a big block of land outside of Brisbane somewhere with a good number of animals. So like a horse and a cow and dog, a couple of cats, maybe goats. And I would be in a sustainable state of mind, in a sustainable business, meaning I had space at home to enjoy those things that I've created. And I had a team building the creative things for me, the events, the retreats, and I'd be guiding them through those. And then I would be coming and knocking the ball out of the park at those events and retreats.
Amazing. What a beautiful vision of the future, Andrew.
I'm glad you asked that. They actually just tidied that up for me as well.
I'm very, very visual, and people's words form visions in my head. And so as you're saying that, I can absolutely picture exactly what that looks like for you. And it's very special. Andrew, I'm incredibly grateful that you've spent time with our audience today. I'm very appreciative of all the skills and wisdom that you've imparted to the audience. And I encourage you, if you've ever thought about upping your game, if you've ever thought about being the best person, the most authentic, and that's my part of my idea around authenticity is about being the best person you can be, warts and all, imperfections and all. Andrew's the person to work with. He is a gorgeous human being and has decades of experience. And I encourage you, if you're listening today, reach out to Andrew. All the links to connect with him will be in the notes attached to this interview. And I want to thank Andrew today for being on the Everyday Business Show. I'm your host, Toni Lontis. We will be back next week with another amazing guest on the Everyday Business Show. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Toni.
The world is really chaotic at the moment. It has been for a little while now. We've all felt it. And there's something so meditative about snow globes. My name's Leah Andrews, and I'm the Queen of Snow Globes. I specialise in producing custom snow globes for B2B clients to gift to their VIPs or to their staff as appreciation gifts. And I also work with a lot of boutique gift shops to make unique sales lines for their stores. So having come from the corporate world myself, I understand what it's like trying really hard to find something that stands out and represents your brand in the way that you would want it to be represented. I feel like I've done a pretty good job of providing some very magical pieces for companies like Calvin Klein and Mercedes-Benz and Estee Lauder with these beautiful designs that they have envisioned, but I've managed to make a reality for them.
Shows with business owners that puts them in front of a global audience. And in behind those shows is a whole range of things, from digital magazines to social media to blogging to email to lead generation, just a whole range of things.